Hey everyone, thanks for learning to play games. My name is Lance, and in today's video I'm going to take a look at a brand new game coming to Kickstarter called Eve, The War for New Eden. This is a brand new one from Titan Forge. It is a 2 to 4 player game that takes roughly 2 to 3 hours to play, and is a competitive game where players are going to be competing with each other to gain victory points. And at the end of the game, whichever player has the most victory points will be the winner of the game. So in this video, I'm going to take you through and show you the main features of the game, and also show you a sample turn to give you a better idea how this one plays. If you want to check out a full playthrough video, I'll have a link up in the top corner where I'll be playing through the first, middle, and end few turns to give you a better idea how this one plays and progresses. And I do also want to point out that all the materials you see here are prototype materials and are subject to change. They look a lot better than the final production copy of the game. So as always, if you find my videos helpful, if you like what I do, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to my channel. It's one of the easiest ways you can support channels like mine so we continue to grow, be able to produce this content. If you want to get notified anytime I drop new videos, also give that notification bell a ring, and then I'll let you know when I'm dropping new videos, such as other crowdfunding videos, playthroughs, teaching videos, unboxing videos, and all kinds of other stuff. Also, in the comments down below, let me know if there's anything else you want to see around this or any other game that you think that I would be interested in covering. I'm always open to starting conversation and hearing what you got to say. So let's go ahead and head to the table and we'll see what this one's all about. The first thing I want to cover are the different factions you can play as, and each faction is going to have a ton of different materials with it. And so let's go ahead and dive into this. So first off, each faction is going to have its main dashboard and an attached dashboard to the top of that will connect to it. With the main dashboard, it's going to list the name of that faction along with that faction's icon and the 3 starting stats for that faction. Now with the prototype, this part messed up where there should be names here. For example, with the top stat, this is your starting earnings, so the amount of money you get during each upkeep. Next is the number of build points that you have. And finally is the number of research points that you start with that you'll be able to, again, gain research tokens for during the upkeep phase and spend those, as you can see on this image here. Next are the different actions you can take during each of your turns, and you'll do that by spending your free action tokens by placing those in these different slots, and each one of the slots lets you do different things such as moving or claiming an area, extracting resources, manufacturing, trading, building, and research. Now each player is going to have 3 actions or free actions that they can take during each of their turns. After that, players can choose to spend some of the credits they have to buy additional actions, up to 2 additional actions by spending the credits that are listed above them. And then each player is also going to have an area that'll track the number of credits they have, or ISKs. From there, then each player is going to have the top dashboard that is going to track the different upgrades for your ships, such as being able to build medium hull ships or large hulls, your warp drive, and your 2 different tiers of defense, offense, and utility systems. Each player is also going to have spots for their 4 active development cards. And throughout the game, players are going to be able to go through their development deck, as I'm going to cover in a little bit, and each one of those is going to have different requirements to unlock. And I'll cover all those different things for that in a little bit later part of the video. Players are also going to have their own set of exhausted tokens for their fleets and claim tokens for the planets that they control. Each player will start with a pair of home worlds that they'll be able to build different buildings on, and their different asteroids that they're going to build a mine throughout the game. And then each player is going to have its own unique set of ships. They'll have 2 options for large ships, 3 options for medium ships, and 3 different options for small ships. And I'll go into those a little bit later as well. Each player is also going to have a strategy deck that they'll use in combat. So from there, now let's get into the development cards. So each player is going to have their own deck of development cards that are going to be broken into 6 different categories: economy, structures, combat, spaceships, conquest, and diplomacy. And each one of these, throughout the game, players are going to be actively developing 4 of these cards during their turns. And they'll be able to place research tokens on these. Each one is going to have a number of research token requirements before it is unlocked and a player can use that card for the rest of the game then. Some cards are going to give the players upgrades for their ships and new abilities. Other cards will have once per turn effects or once per round effects that they'll be able to activate. Some cards will be used in combat or being able to give players additional victory points in different areas, and all kinds of different things. And you'll be able to tailor your game to however you like to play. If you like to be more combat oriented or win by violence, moving into the conquest and upgrading your ships and gaining cards for combat is going to be your path. If you prefer to do space exploration and win through economy, you will go for your economy things and potentially structures as well as maybe diplomacy. And you can mix and match, choosing how to upgrade and play your game. So the next thing I want to cover is combat and the different ships that each player is going to have. So each faction is going to have their own unique set of ships. They'll have 9 different ships to choose from. In the beginning of the game, the players are going to have access to the 3 different small ships. Once players unlock their medium hull, then they'll expand that selection to the medium hull ships, giving them 3 more ships that they can choose to build. Finally, when players unlock the large hull, then they'll have 2 large ships that they'll be able to build. And again, each faction is going to have their own set of unique ships and models for those. From there, each of the different ship cards is going to list all the information you need on it. Starting at the top of the card is the name of that ship, along with the size of that ship and classification, and then the different stats going down the side. The top stat is the difficulty to hit that ship, or number of targets that the player will need to roll in order to acquire a target and lock onto that ship. Next is that ship's attack, a number of dice that ship will roll if it is the leader in an attack. From there, then the support is the next stat, and that is the number of dice it adds to the leader when the leader attacks. Then you'll have red or reduction, number of points that is going to reduce, or damage points that will reduce before damage is dealt to its hit points. And then finally, each ship is going to have a speed, or number of spaces it can move when it's not in combat. Then you'll have the icon of that ship, so you can identify which model you're using. And some ships will have abilities or additional abilities that will be unlocked based on the different areas that you've researched. For example, with this ship, with the Buzzard here, it does have an ability that is unlocked when that player researches defensive systems tier 1. And each one of the ships is going to work differently and will tailor towards your play style depending upon what you're trying to achieve. If you're trying to explore, you might want to stick with just small and medium ships that have the best speed. Or if you want to be more defensive or offensive, getting into the larger ships will give you some of that superior firepower or higher defense and number of hit points that you can take before being eliminated in combat. Now, this is a resource game, so what resources are you going to have to manage throughout the game? And which ones are you going to be using? So first off, you're going to have 4 different minerals, 3 of which are going to be your basic minerals. Those are going to be the green Maxilon, the gray Titanium, and the yellow Pyrite. Then you're also going to have an advanced mineral, which is the Morphite. And you'll be able to spend these throughout the game to do all kinds of different things, such as building structures or ships. Being able to build higher level ships will require different minerals that you'll have to acquire either through manufacturing or trading and whatnot. You also have different resources you'll have to extract from planets, such as planetary resources or stars that you'll acquire. And then there's just regular building supplies, and there's research tokens you'll use to upgrade your different or research your different developments. Then there's different buildings you build or structures you build to build on various planets that will help you, such as citadels for defense, custom offices to increase your credits, refineries to be able to extract those different planetary resources, and engineering complexes to increase your research and allow you to build ships in different systems. The final resource you're going to be attaining is victory points, which is the most critical one of the game and will determine the winner of the game at the end. You're also going to have access to 2 different decks of cards throughout the game. Event cards that will give you different one-time abilities you'll be able to spend during your turn, and each one of these will have the name and how to trigger that ability, with some of them giving you different resources, such as this one that gives you a planetary or a set of stars, or you can gain supplies. This one, overheated module, allows you to gain a basic mineral of your choice or in combat. So all of these kind of different cards, and there's no limit to the number of these you can have. And these will also be cards you'll be able to gain if you do poorly in combat and lose a bunch of ships. You'll receive event cards that will give you little bumps in your abilities. Next are the mission cards, and with the mission cards, you're going to start the game with one of these, and these will provide you with different ways and different things you can achieve to gain additional victory points throughout your turn or throughout the game. Each one of these is going to list the requirements you need to complete, and once you've met those requirements, you can cash this in for the victory points and then discard that. And throughout the game, you'll be able to acquire additional mission cards either through manufacturing or other means. And again, each one of them is going to provide you with all kinds of different ways of gaining one or more victory points throughout the game by meeting these different conditions. And the final thing I want to cover before getting into the sample turn is combat, as this is going to be an important part of the game and is a little bit separate than the rest of the game. So when a fleet moves into a system with an enemy fleet, combat is going to ensue. And during combat, you're going to have an attacker and a defender. Whoever the player is that moved into the system will be the attacker, and the other player will be the defender. And then you're going to have these combat pieces on either side of the board, and so I've just simply disconnected those to show you this in combat or in this example. So from there then you're going to have 3 different orbits in combat, a small, medium, and large, that you're going to be allocating your ships to. And you're going to have to choose at least one leader, and that leader must meet the size of the orbit. So in the small orbit, only a small ship can be the leader. In a medium, only a medium ship can, and same in the large. And that's also going to dictate the color of the dice you're going to be rolling. White dice are only going to be rolled in the small. In the medium, both a mix of white and black dice will be rolled in equal parts. And in the large, only the black dice will be rolled. And these are going to have different variants of symbols on them. So let's go ahead and get into the example from there, and then I'll explain a little bit more as we go. So with the defending player, the blue player here, I have 4 small ships and a medium ship. So with this example, I'm going to look at my different ship cards and determine who I want to have as a leader. So with that, I do have the flycatcher here who has an excellent attack rating. So I'm going to go ahead and make him the leader in the small orbit. From there, then I can choose either all of the rest of the ships to be support ships, or I can allocate those to different orbits again. So with him being in there, I think want to support him, and I'll go ahead and throw a couple of the crows on him as well to support him. So I'll place those in the support ship area. From there, then I'm also going to have I'll have the medium orbit, and I'm going to place my medium ship in there as the leader, and then I'll support it with the buzzard. So now I'm ready to go. Now each player is also going to choose a strategy card to play during combat. Now these are single use only, and the deck is finite, so there are certain cards you can play that you'll get back into your hand, but otherwise once a card is used, it is out for the rest of the game. So you have to be selective on when to pull the trigger and use which cards you want to. So moving over to the other player, the attacking player, that player is going to, I think I'm going to go ahead and have my medium ship here be the leader for the medium orbit. And I think I'll throw a stiletto on there and one of these guys. And then for my small orbit, I'm going to go ahead and place that ship there. And I'm going to have 2 supports in there with that. I think I'm going to put that one in there as well. So from there, then, or wait a minute, do I want to do that? Actually, I want to reverse this. So I'm going to have that way and this over here as a support. All right. So then that player is also going to select a strategy card, and we're ready to move into combat at that point. Now you don't have to fill up all of the different orbits. So even if I had a large ship, I would not have had to place it in the large orbit. I could have easily added it as a support ship in one of the other orbits. So then our players are going to reveal their cards. So I chose shields up. So all of my small ships have +1 reduction on them. And then the red player for attacking says at the start of combat, choose an orbit. You may re-roll any number of dice in that orbit in your every attack you do. So I am going to go ahead and select the medium orbit for that. All right, so from there, then we'll move into combat. So combat is going to take place over 3 rounds. Each round, you're going to resolve each one of the orbits that you have ships in. And each orbit that your enemy has ships in as well will be handled simultaneously. So even though the attacker will be the player to go first, if, for example, the attacker was able to wipe out all of the ships in the small orbit would still get to attack. And the only difference there is if, for example, the red player attacks the medium orbit and eliminates the medium ship, since I'm still in the small orbits, when I get to the medium orbit, that ship would be gone already, and so I would not be able to attack in that example. So let's go ahead and move into combat now. So first off, I have the Saber as my leader. The Saber here has an attack rating of 4. And again, I'm only going to be using white dice for this. So I have 4 attack dice for him. And then I do have 2 of the stilettos in there, which is going to give me +1 support. So I'm going to get 1 die for each one of those. And then I also have the this guy in here, and he is going to add 2 more support dice for that. And he also has the ability, you may reroll any number of dice in your orbit. So he grants that the reroll ability there, and this card grants the reroll ability here. I believe I selected that. If I didn't, that's the one I'm going to select, because you can only reroll each die 1 time, no matter how many sources you have that let you reroll. All right, so from there, then he has to choose a target. So again, he's going to choose one of the ships that he wishes to target. And since I have 8 dice, I think I'm going to go after the Cerberus and try to take that out. So the Cerberus has a difficulty of 2, so meaning I have to have at least 2 targeting symbols to successfully be able to target him. And then from there, then I have to do enough damage to eliminate him. Now, if I have other orbits that are going to still go, any damage that is done to him will stay on there for that time frame where the other orbit can potentially take it out. But at the end of each combat, then that'll all be reset. So let's go ahead and roll and see how he does. Okay, and then I get to re-roll, so I might as well re-roll those 2 blanks. All right, so I have plenty of targeting here. I have a ton of targeting. Actually, I might want to re-roll a couple of those, but I already took care of it, so I'm going to go ahead and hold it there. All right, so from there then I need at least 2 targets to meet the difficulty requirements on the Cerberus. So I have that. From there then I can allocate damage. So each one of these is a hit, and this is counted as a critical, so it's going to count as a hit. And then some ships are also going to have different effects that might add different additional results. For example, this ship, it would also add a targeting to that result as well. So then I do 3 damage to the Cerberus. Now the Cerberus has a reduction of 2, which means that he's going to eliminate 2 of those results, and so only 1 will get through. So he's only taken 1 damage at this point. So not that great. All right, so from there, now it moves over to the blue player to go. And additionally, before I get into that, if I would have had more damage results and I would have been able to take him down, any other damage results, I could choose another ship to target as long as I had, again, a number of targets to lock onto that ship, and then I could allocate additional damage there. Okay, so moving over to the defensive player now. Now I have to choose a target. So with the defensive player, I am going to go ahead, I'm going to try to take out that little ship as the leader. So with that one, that's the Saber. It has a difficulty of 3, and it does not have any reduction or reduction to its damage, and it has 2 hit points. So with that, I have the Flycatcher in there, so it's going to give me 4 dice. And I have 2 of the Crows in there for 2 additional dice for that one. And there are no other abilities right now because I don't have anything unlocked. So then I'm going to go ahead and give these a roll. All right, again, tons of targeting. So I've got the Saber needs a targeting of 3, so I was able to do that. And I did get a crit, so it's going to count as 1 hit. And the Saber has 2 hit points. So let's go ahead and say, for example, with this combat that I was able to roll, I got that instead. So I've done 2 damage to the Saber, which doesn't have any reduction to it, so I have eliminated that. So he's just going to be placed off to the side as a casualty. So from there, now it's going to move over to the medium orbits attack. So with that one, I have this guy here, the Vanguard, or the Vagabond. So that one is going to be getting 5 dice. And then I do have 2 more supports. So I'm going to have 7 dice total, which means that I have to have an equal number of black and white. And then the last results, or the last die now that it's odd, I can choose either a black or a white die for that. And I think I'm going to take the black die. So from there, I did 1 damage to Cerberus so far, so I'm going to go ahead and attack the Cerberus again and try to take it down this time. All right, and I do get to reroll results, so let me see where I'm at right now. So I have the 2 targeting, so I'm looking pretty good as far as that's concerned, so I'm just going to reroll this one, and I got 2 additional targeting. So I've got the 2 that I needed on the Cerberus to actually lock on and be able to do damage to it. And then it's going to reduce damage by 2, so I'm going to spend those 2 for 2 damage to get past that. And then the 2 additional damage that I need to eliminate it. So the Cerberus has been eliminated, but again, I don't get to remove it because the medium orbit is going to be resolved simultaneously. And then I do still have 1 hit result and 2 targeting, so I could try to hit another ship. So from there, I am going to, let's see, what do we got? I'm going to go ahead and change this to a 2 for this example. I know not a lot of shifting around here, but I'm going to go ahead and say that I had the 3 difficulties, so I'm simply going to target one of the crows. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and say that I had those results left over. So the crow would need 3 difficulty to target, so I was able to lock on to the crow. And then the small ship does have a reduction of -1, so it would take one of those results away, but then the crow only has 1 hit point left, so that would eliminate that crow with that. So I'm going to place that off to the side because that has already been resolved. From there, then I will move over to the blue player to go. So with the blue player now, I'm going to resolve the next round of combat or for the mediums. So with the Cerberus, before it dies, it's going to have 5 dice. And then the buzzard adds 1 to that. So I'm basically going to be rolling 3 and 3. And I was able to take out that little ship there. The Vagabond is a difficulty 2. It has a 2 reduction and 3 health. Sure, why not? Let's go ahead and try to take out one of the mediums. And see if I can get lucky here. All right, so I needed the 2 targeting, and I don't think I have any reroll results. I do not, but I do have a critical result, which isn't going to necessarily help me. All right, so I was able to lock on, as he has a difficulty of 2, and then I ended up doing 1, 2, 3 points of damage. So I only ended up doing 1 damage to him after that. So he would basically heal that at the end of the round. So from there, then I would remove that casualty. And at this point, then the round is going to come to an end and we're ready to move into the next round of combat. So at this point, at the beginning of a round, before you resolve any beginning of round effects, each player, starting with the attacker, can choose to try to flee and get out of the combat. At that point, if that player, say the red player does not flee, but the blue player wishes to, at that point, then the blue player is going, nobody else could flee. So if red chose to flee, then the blue could not choose to flee as well. And the fleeing player is going to receive +1 difficulty on each of their ships for that round. The red player will do their attacks, and then that is it. And that any ships that are remaining will be able to leave. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and call it here, as we could go through 2 more rounds of combat, potentially getting all of the blue ships out of here, as red's doing pretty well at this point. But once combat is resolved, then you determine who the winner of that combat is. If the attacker wins, the attacker is going to receive 1 victory point if they're able to win the combat and eliminate an enemy ship. So since I was able to eliminate one of the enemy ships, if I win that combat, then I would receive a victory point for that. Now, with the defender side, if the defender loses a ship, the defender is going to receive, or as long as they lose, If the defender loses a ship, that defender is going to redraw an event card. From there, then they're going to get compensation for additional ships that they've lost for a strength of 3 total. So you're going to determine, so each small ship is worth 1 point, each medium ship is worth 3. So I would actually get a second event card in that situation as a little bit of compensation for losing some ships. From there, then you'll place the ships back on their areas. If whichever one loses is going to have to flee that system, so they're going to have to move to an adjacent system. If there's not an option to move to an adjacent system, then all of those ships are simply eliminated. And the final thing I want to do is take you through a sample turn in action to give you a better idea how the game plays. So during each round, each player is going to take a turn by spending an action, and you must spend an action out of the 3 free actions that you have. Now, players are also going to have options to purchase additional actions during their turn for the credits that are listed on there. So you can get all the way up to 5 actions during your turn, but it's going to cost you some more credits to do so. Other than that, you're also able to do a number of free actions, including activating cards that you have out, being able to trigger and resolve research projects that you have enough research points on, and so on. So from there, let's go ahead and get into the game. So the red player is going to be the starting player, and during the red player's turn, the red player is going to choose one of the different actions that are listed on the side of their card, and then mark it with their free action token. So at the beginning of the game, I think I'm going to go ahead and start off with a move action. So I'm going to go ahead and place a token in the move spot, and it lets me choose a space that I have a fleet on, which is any space that has ships on it. And I can move those ships a number of spaces up to their movement value, or if they move into a new space that has not been explored yet, then they're going to have to stop there. And you're going to notice the numbers on these spaces. So you have to have enough movement left to make it into a space. So for example, with these guys, they have a speed of 3, so they can move into a space that has a 3 as long as they are adjacent to it during their turn. But if this place had already been resolved and I was here and I moved here, I could not move into here as I only had 2 movement points left in that example. So let's go ahead and jump into it here. So I'm going to go ahead and open up this one here. So I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to place my fleet on there, and then I have to mark that this fleet is exhausted, as they can only move once during their turn with a move action. Now, if you have other cards and whatnot that let you do that, then you can do that as well. Each one of these locations will potentially have a number of spots you can build different structures on. Some of them will have planets that will give you resources that you can extract or you'll get during your upkeep if you control the location, and that is a separate action to claim it, where you're going to take control. And then some of these spots also have asteroid fields that you'll be placing out, which this one does not. And they also have discovery points. For discovering this, you get a reward. So with that, I get 1 discovery token, so I'll get to draw 1. Now with that player, I do have a cheetah in there. And with them, it says that when I draw discovery tokens, I draw an additional 1 and then discard 1 and keep the others. So I'll actually get to draw 2 discovery tokens, keep 1, and discard the other. So I have a research point or 4 credits. Ooh, I think I'm going to take the 4 credits. So I'll place the research token back in there. Their credit 1 will be discarded, and I will receive 4 credits for that. All right, so that is my action. Now I do have another card. I have this event card here. And this one, I'm going to go ahead and play, and it allows me to gain 3 research tokens. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'll discard the event, and I'll get 3 research tokens. I'll get to place out right away, which can be very helpful here. And I'm going to go ahead and put 1 on my assembly line. And I'm going to put 1 on my offensive system, or 2 on my offensive systems. And that will be enough to meet the requirements on there. So I'm going to go ahead and complete that one by discarding those 2 research tokens and placing this. So with this one, this is all tracked on the side of my board here. So I'm going to place one of my completion tokens in the offensive systems tier 1. And then with this one, I can deploy another card, another development card. So I'll choose another card. And I think with this one, I'm going to go ahead and grab the medium hull ship so I can start trying to work on that. And that is pretty much everything I can do during my turn. So from there, it's going to pass over to the blue player now to take their turn where they're going to perform one action. And I'm going to go ahead and do a move action as well, but I'm going to go ahead and split my fleet into both of those spaces. So let's go ahead and flip over this one first. So that's 2 and 1. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and send them in there like that. So both of these guys will have a fleet exhaustion token on them. And with that one, I have 1 discovery token that I get to pull. So 4 credits. And then this one, the buzzard, has that same ability, so I get to draw 3 tokens instead of 2 and keep 2 of them. All right, so his first is some stars. Second, 2 research. Nice. And third is a moon. So which ones do I definitely want the research, and I think I'll take the moon as well. So then I'll put the stars back in there. So the moon, I will get a moon resource, and I'll get 2 research tokens, which obviously I'm probably going to try to use right away. And I'm going to go ahead and grab the trade contracts or contacts. And that one's 2, so I'm going to go ahead and spend the 2 right away to research that and get that. So now I can use this once during the round, and it lets me perform a trade operation. So that's pretty cool. And that's everything I can do during my turn. So that is going to end my turn, kicking back over to the red player to go. I think the red player is going to take control of that system. So he's going to do a claim action, and that lets me place a control token on there. So that will now give me control of that system where I can start building on there and doing all those things. Back over to blue. Blue is going to go ahead and... I think I will do a claim as well to gain control of this location. And that'll end my turn. Back over to red to go. Red is going to go ahead and do... Since I control it, I think I'm going to do an extraction. So that'll let me extract the resources from the planet. So I'm going to get some planetary resources. And that is his turn. So over to the blue player to go. Blue is going to go ahead and do a build action. So in order to do that, I'm going to choose a system that I have control on, which can be the home system, or it can be this system. And with this system, I'll choose a location or a spot to build something. And if the spot has stuff in it, I actually get that as well. So this one gives me 3 build points. And then my character has 6 builds to start with. So I have 9 build points that I can use to potentially do things. On top of that, I will have to spend other resources that are needed as well, depending upon what I choose to build. So I'm going to go ahead and build a research center or complex in there. So I'm going to place that in there. That is going to cost 5 build points. So out of the 9 that I have, I've used 5, so I have 4 left. It's going to cost me a yellow mineral, and it also costs 6 credits. So I'm down to 2 credits. So from there, I could build other things if I had the resources needed. I'm out of materials right now, so I cannot do anything else with those. And so that is going to have to end my build action. So that is my turn. So it's back over to the red player. Now the red player could choose to spend resources to take another action, but with this being the beginning of the game, I think both players are going to go ahead and pass. So red will pass, and then blue is going to go ahead and pass as well. So at that point, then we're going to move into the upkeep phase. So during the upkeep phase, there are going to be 10 steps that the players are going to do in order. The first one is going to be refreshing their actions. So each player will receive their action cubes back that they used during their turn. And that will include any actions you purchased as well. Next, you're going to refresh your fleets by removing their exhaustion tokens from them. You're going to mine minerals. So each area that has asteroids that is in a system that you control, you're going to receive resources for. So the blue player is going to receive 1 yellow, and the red player will receive 1 gray for right now. Next, you're going to extract minerals. So for each refinery in a system you control, you're going to choose a mineral in there, which right now neither one of us have refineries in these areas. So then we're going to gain income equal to our earnings. So each player will receive 4 income. So red now is at 12, and that'll put blue at 6. Next, you're going to handle any research. So each player is going to receive 3 research points plus an additional 1 for each engineering complex. So red is going to receive 3 that you must spend immediately. So I could do the assembly line, or I could do the medium hull. I think I'm going to do the medium hull. So I'm going to go and drop all 3 on there. And then the blue player is actually going to get 4 points, or 4 research tokens. That player will be able to place out. So I'm going to go ahead and do I'm going to place them all in this now. I could spread them out, but getting that going early I think can help as well. So I'm going to go ahead and place all of those there. From there, then you're going to untap any developments that you've used. Right now, we haven't unlocked any yet that we can tap to use. For example, with this one here, I could use it one time, or like, for example, this one, I could use it one time during my turn, and then I have to turn it and exhaust it. So now I can refresh it and bring it back to its usable side. From there, then we go into the raids. So if a player has enemy ships in one of your different area, one of your home worlds, then they can raid it, and they're going to steal a victory point from you. And so you got to be careful about your home worlds. From there, then it's domination. So domination is going to have a number of different areas that you can gain victory points for. And in the prototype, there are only 3, but in the full game, there might be more, or you might randomly draw some during the game, or you might be able to set different ones depending upon the game style you're looking for. In this one, if a player controls 5 or more non-home worlds, then that player gets victory points, and each player will get a victory point for that if they meet those criteria. Next, the player that has the most out of all the players, if you control more than any other player, then you receive a victory point. And the final victory point is for controlling the center point of the map. So if a player has control of this area, then that player will receive a victory point for that during this step. Finally, the first player token is passed to the next player in clockwise order to start the next round. And from there, you're ready to move into the next round with that player taking their turn. And at this point, like I said, it's going to continue going round after round until one of the players meets the end condition, which is having 10 victory points. When that happens, there are 2 different conditions for it. If it happens during a turn where the players are playing, then that is going to trigger the end of that turn immediately, and you'll move into an emergency upkeep phase where you're going to skip over the raid and domination steps, and then you'll take one final round where all players will take their turns, and you'll go through one final upkeep to determine the winner, and whoever has the most victory points at that point will win the game. The other way is if it happens during the upkeep phase. If a player reaches 10 victory points, at that point you're going to complete that upkeep phase and then go through one final turn and one final upkeep phase. Well, I hope you found the video helpful in deciding whether or not this is one you want to add to your collection and back on Kickstarter. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please post those in the comment section below and I'll do my best to answer them. Or swing by the comment section in the Kickstarter page and drop any questions you have there as well. I'm sure the creators love to hear from you and are more than happy to answer any questions you have. Until next time, I'll see you later.